doesn't diminish my value by saying I don't know something. Because like the moment you confront the fact that you don't know anything, there's so little you know. You know, like this little niche that you do really well. And as the layers get wider and wider outside of that, you know next to nothing. There's just so much. So I didn't really have to confront that in the practice of law because I was just always an intrigued person, right? I want to know more. I want to learn more.
Welcome back to another episode of the Law Firm Success Podcast. Now, today we're going to be talking about a topic that a lot of lawyers probably face. And for many lawyers who probably like our guests, probably didn't have the plan to say, hey, I'm just going to go start a law firm and just grow this successful law firm. It kind of unfolded and happened. But during that process of unfolding, there's a lot you have to learn about yourself and the confidence that it takes to be able to pick yourself up, to continue moving towards a successful outcome for your firm. Thomas, welcome to the show. How are you?
Hey, how are you? Thanks for having me. How's everything?
Everything is going well. So for those who may not be familiar with you, your background, your law firm, can you tell us a little bit about, your law firm and where your law firm is right now?
Sure. Our office is based in Old Brookville, New York. That's Nassau County, Long Island. So people not in New York, that's like right outside of Queens, which is a part of New York City. And right now, what we primarily practice in is bankruptcy, commercial litigation, and real estate.
Awesome. Now, I want to take a step back and go through that journey on how did you even get to this point? Like, what led to you actually starting your own firm?
So that's so many parts of my law career has nothing to do with me making an affirmative decision. It's just like things fell in my lap. And what happened was I was working with a firm called Greenspoon Martyr, which is a large national firm, offices all over the country, huge practice groups in different areas. I actually worked for them in their Fort Lauderdale office and their New York office because we lived in Miami for a time. And like May 2018, a friend of mine who's also a colleague, I just got off the phone with him before we got on this podcast, had just got it admitted to the bar. So he's like, all right, let's get out to dinner. Me, you, and my mentor, Mark, which is how I met this colleague through Mark. And I was like, oh, this is great. So went to the steakhouse, we're hanging out. And my mentor just looked me dead in the eye. I hadn't seen him for a couple of years because I'd been living in Miami. And he was like, Tommy, I'm done. I've given everything I have to this profession. I mean, he's a phenomenal businessman. He's really, really good. And he's been, he was a bankruptcy practitioner and he helped countless businesses turn themselves around. So he came across one that really intrigued him. The guy just wanted to sell it. He, didn't want to do it anymore. So Mark took it over and just got so much more joy out of it. And he was like, I don't need to do the law anymore, right? Because he's a good businessman at anything he does. So the law, what he went into, didn't really matter. And the law had just taken its toll over 20 years. So he was like, why don't you just buy me out over time? All the clients know you. All the clients love you. It's like such a seamless transition. And at that point in time, I was 30. So that's really, really young to start your own practice. Most people don't do it till their mid-30s. So that's how it happened. It worked like that. It didn't pan out exactly as he and I planned, but I don't think acquisitions of a law firm ever really do. So that's how we got started. My wife joined the firm in January 2019, and then it's just been me and her and, people who've joined the firm along the way since then.
Nice. Now, I'm curious as that journey kind of unfolded, what might have been like some of the things that you kind of learned in the process of that just unfolded because you didn't set out with the intention of doing this. So there probably was some things that may have surprised you or some new lessons you had to learn throughout the journey.
Oh, those still happen, right? Those still happen. I mean, we're going to be doing this 7 years in July. The firm will be operating. The amount that I've learned in that time is astounding. How little I knew when we started shocks me. Right? We just hired a new associate, great kid, really bright, wants to do well. And we were working on a brief the other day, and he said, So like, towards the end, I was helping him fine tune it before we filed. And he goes, after I read your changes the next day, I was like frustrated with myself as to how I was overthinking it. And I was like, that's just because where you are in the law right now, you're in the early stage, you're just learning everything you can. It's just not as clear yet. And there's some things you feel that way now about certain areas of the law, certain areas of business where it's just clear. Like now it just makes sense. But I'm still confronted on a daily basis with things that I'm just like, I don't understand how this works. Why should I do it this way? So just, it never stops. I don't think it ever, practitioners I talk to who have very successful practices, who've done it for 30 years, they're like, Tommy, at year 15 was when I was like, yep, I got it now, right? I really got it. I'm like, that's wild because like by any metric, they say like 10,000 hours, you're an expert at something. It's like for the law, it's like 100,000. It's not, it's never ending. So you're always learning. You learn something new every day. That's not a cliche. That's a fact. And I can't think of one thing where I was like, wow, how did I not know that? Or I did not see that coming. I don't think I realized how much anxiety it would cause.
Gotcha.
Because going into law school, my friends would like in law school, they would be freaking out over finals. And I was like the guy eating lunch 2 minutes beforehand, couldn't give a crap. Right? I was like, I'll figure it out, don't worry about it. Same thing with the bar, didn't mind. Starting a law practice, man, that caused anxiety to go through the roof. And we were
Now, I'm
talking.
wondering,
Yeah,
I'm curious about, for a lot of lawyers, ego is a big challenge because, like you said, they go to law school, they work really hard. I mean, which they do work really hard, to get where they are. But then when you step into running a business, there's so much you don't know. It's just,
right.
how did you get comfortable with being okay to like, you know what, let me turn down my ego and just actually learn and actually navigate this journey?
To give myself a little bit of a pat on the back, I was never that big of an ego guy to begin with because I
Mhm.
like to learn. I'm not ashamed that I didn't know something. If I don't know, I'll tell you. I don't care, right? Doesn't diminish my value by saying I don't know something. Because like the moment you confront the fact that you don't know anything, there's so little like this little niche that you do really well. And as the layers get wider and wider outside of that, next to nothing. There's just so much. So I didn't really have to confront that in the practice of law because I was just always an intrigued person, right? I want to know more. I want to learn more. Um, so from an ego perspective, that wasn't a problem. It's more of like the subconscious, like
Mhm.
reminding yourself you don't know is more important
Yep.
from an attorney's perspective for liability. You can't tell a client, yeah, you're fine, right? On an issue that you haven't thoroughly researched. You have to like, nope, I don't know. And I really have to figure that out. And that's kind of the fun of the law because you're always going to learn something new. There's always a new issue. So from an ego, I didn't really have to tone it down because I didn't really have it wasn't overflowing to begin with. I was always a confident person, but not egotistical.
Mhm.
So not that bad. That was not a hard part of the transition for me.
Gotcha. And I guess based on where you are right now, like how many you mentioned yourself, your wife, how many people do you have in the firm, working in the firm, whether it's employees, contractors, or of counsel?
Right now, so from straight legal perspective, we have a paralegal and associate. Me and my wife are the partners. We have
Mhm.
like our tech team is outsourced, our marketing team is outsourced, everything like that is outsourced.
Gotcha. Now, how does it feel having to manage all of those pieces? I mean, because like I said, going into a firm wasn't your original intention. So now you got to practice law and you got to manage a business. So
Yeah,
what is it like managing those pieces, like the indirect and the direct people?
there's definitely like road bumps. There were some growing pains for sure, especially from the marketing perspective, because there's so many people out there like SEO and Google. We do this great. Well, the ads are constant in my Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn feed. Constant. Uh, but we actually have a phenomenal marketing team now. This company called Hosio, based on Long Island and Holbrook. I had to give him a shout out because we love those guys. They're incredible. But they were, we kissed a couple of frogs before we got to them. So, determining who's full of crap and who's not, and those are part of the growing pains. Someone who's not. I grew up in Queens, which is like a blue collar type of town. So there weren't a lot of businessmen around me growing up to learn from. So those are kind of things you have to pick up along the way, and you get some scars from it, but you're better for it, right? Maybe you lose some money, but then it gets you to the person you need to be. And, luckily we have that now. Whenever we have a call, it's so productive. They know exactly what we're looking for. They handle things without us asking, and they don't bull crap us. They tell us exactly what we need to hear. And, that's a tough part of it. Balancing all those things is a tough part of the job, but it's also fun because you went to law school to be a lawyer. So presumably you like doing research and writing and speaking, but you didn't go to business school. Well, most of us didn't. And learning those things is something new, right? And especially helping colleagues who are like new to, maybe starting their own firm and explaining the things you did too, like letting them get the benefit of your experience is very rewarding. So there's been some headaches, and still to this day, to balance everything, even with proper team members in place, it's a lot. This is a 24/7 gig.
Gotcha. Nice. So if people are interested to learn more about your firm, see the cool things, the awesome things that the firm is up to, where's a good place that they can find either you or the firm online?
So they go to our website, frankfirmpc.com. We're on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and you can find a lot of resources at any of those spots.
Awesome. Well, Thomas, thank you so much for coming on. Thank you for sharing your story and part of your journey with us. So thanks for being an amazing guest.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Law Firm and Finance Show, where we give you great content that helps you build a more successful law firm. So make sure you hit that subscribe button on all platforms and follow us for more content.